Alrighty, hey everybody, I am here, ready to go. And, second. Put the position here. I've got a little ottoman underneath the desk, so I can go back to see all of the comments here and get me in a place where I'm not looking so far away from the camera. Okay, very good. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tea with G. I used to just call satsang with G. I know there can be some people who are new here to this whole process of self-inquiry and non-duality. Self-realization is the realization of the self, right? Now, if you want to know something about anything, what do you do? There's a subject that you're really, really interested in. Right? I don't care what it is. Maybe it's stamps. You collect stamps or comic books or something, or you like some hobby or photography or music or just literature or novels. Whatever you're interested in gets your attention, doesn't it? And when something gets your attention, it grabs a big chunk of mind share, as it were, right? It absorbs you to the point where it excludes anything else that isn't as important, right? If you're in a good book, do a good book that somebody else who wants you to watch a TV show has absolutely no interest for you whatsoever. Just, whatever, I don't care. What the things that really interest you and light you up are the things that get your attention. And with that attention, the attention tends to expand, and you see more, you notice more, you learn more, right? When I was a young musician, there was nothing but music. I never was able to get a degree because I just couldn't bring myself to show up at the courses that were prerequisites that I needed to have, and I had to have those under those belt with a certain grade in order to get the degree. Well, I could never fulfill the requirements, any of that stuff. If it didn't have anything to do with music, I wanted nothing to do with it. That's partially because I was kind of a dysfunctional fellow, and not particularly responsible. I realize I still have these things in. I don't need them because. But boy, did I learn a lot about music in a very short period of time, because it just absorbed my attention. Whatever you focus on absorbs you. It prioritizes things, what you care most about. An interesting little exercise one can go through, and I used to do this when I would do more of the coaching that was, kind of the life coaching kind of thing, which I did a long time ago. A wonderful exercise you can do is look at two things. Where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my money? You will find your priorities. And you may be surprised at what you find, but the point is that what you really care about gets your attention. In order to realize the self, that level of attention needs to be given to yourself. Now, it's not just putting your attention on myself because I like this. The description of ourselves that we normally think of as ourselves, it's trying to connect to something bigger than that. Something that was there before conditioning took place. before your particular characteristics, the various kinds of habits got ingrained in us, the beliefs, all of these things require us to scrutinize those, look at those. That belief is actually true. Is this particular habit serving me in any way? But it goes deeper than that. Who was there before anything else was there? Notice now that I can ask you, do you exist? Are you here? Do you exist? Right? Very simply, well, yeah, of course I do. I mean, yeah, what's the point? Well, the point is that can you experience anything else in your entire life, multiple lives, any life? Can you experience anything if you aren't there first? No matter what you've experienced, no matter what's come up, thought, emotion, sensation, memory, associations, beliefs, habits, difficulties, struggles, problems, relationships, love, wonder. Before any of those arose, you were there. There was something there prior to absolutely every experience you've ever had. And since it was all those experiences were appearing to you, whatever that is you. So you were there before any ideas about who you were formed, before any habits formed, any conditioning, before there were any words in your head, before you had any concept of life, before you had any experience whatsoever. You were there. That which right now is saying, yeah, I know I exist. So, that's the self, isn't it? Now people talk about the self, capital S, right? Or self-realization. We have this idea of this kind of this special explosive state out there somewhere where it's like, oh, enlightenment, and there's angels singing, and there's all sorts of things going on. It's a big Hollywood event, enlightenment. However, if that big event took place, you'd be there first. You'd be there before it took place. So I'm not interested at all in some big grandiose thing called the self. I'm only interested in my experience of my own being. And that's what it is, isn't it? If I say, do you exist? You say yes. But in between the time where I say, do you exist, and you say yes, you look, something inside just looks, it checks in, right? Yes, I exist. That's the only self that matters. Not something distant. Self-realization is not realizing anything other than the self you are right now. That which was here before anything appeared, before any experience appeared, before there was anything of anything. Before that, you were here. So just start with that. Set aside all the ideas, big, grandiose ideas about what enlightenment, awakening is, and just be with the only self you actually know. Not some big idea somewhere which you don't know, which you'd be there first anyway. It's the one you know, right here. And let's just begin separating out from that. Anything that comes and goes. Anything that that self has experienced, because if it's been experienced by the self, it's not the self. When I say the self, I mean yourself. And gradually, not necessarily slowly, but gradually, separating out the ideas that I have of myself to that which was there before there were any ideas. Just that simple, direct sense of I am, I exist, I'm here. Just doing that. Ramana Maharshi said 15 minutes a day. Muji would say 30 minutes a day, and they say, well, break it up into 10 minutes. 5 minutes. Do it just for 5 minutes. Just spend some time with your attention on this thing that's not a concept. It's not an idea. It was there before any other experience took place. And it's you. Without anything extra added. No concepts, no ideas, no history, no future. Just this simple, direct experience of I am. Just give it a little time. Like I said in the beginning, what gets our attention gets magnified. It becomes bigger. It takes over more. It sets priorities. It brings about a genuine transformation of everything around it. Even though that transformation will also be something that was there before the transformation took place, but its influence will make the transformation that brings the awakening out of just some kind of an idea, but into an actual lived experience. So, all right then. Yeah, that wasn't a lengthy intro, was it? Let me just take a little drink of what's left of my my morning beverage. So, the floor is open for all of your questions. This is a satsang kind of, after all. Let's see if there we go. It wasn't scrolling for me properly. So. Hello, Rosario and Roberto. It's cold in Maryland. It's been cold here in Seattle. Matter of fact, there's none now, but a little bit ago it was actually snowing. And that doesn't happen very often here in the Pacific Northwest. I think of the whole time I've lived here, there's only been 2 snowstorms that actually had, they accumulated, and it was a lot of it. It's wonderful. It's really fun. I know it's crazy, but I love to drive around the snow. I also like to drive fast. So do my sons. So there you have it. Runs in the family. Hello, Ava. Hello, I am you. And I am you too. Good to be here. Good to see you. There's Barb. Hello, Barb. Ms. Nay. Hi, GP. Happy Sunday from London. There's Marty in Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, Canada. There's greetings from Ontario, Canada. And on behalf of my entire country, I apologize for our rather stupid president and his tariffs on Canada and the like. So it's not my fault. One of these days, somebody's going to tell him what a tariff actually is. And he'll go, oh, okay. Then he'll deny it anyway. So it's tragically funny. Yeah. Hey, David and Elaine, so good to see you guys. There's CM. Hello. It's not a good Sunday if it doesn't end with TNG. Oh, that's right. Well, you're in Moldova. So, yeah, it's quite late there. Yeah. Hello, Isabel. She's in Sweden. And, they're saying hello to each other because they're all in class together. Hello, Ida. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Ida's also in London, right? I'm pretty sure. Jill. Hello, Jill. Wonderful. GP in the house. That's right. Don't forget it. Hello, Mary. Mary, and Eve again. Everybody saying hello to everybody. What is this? A social club? What's going on? Sylvia. Hello, Sylvia. Good to see you. Jennifer. Hello, Baba, and everyone. Hello to you. Fatima. Oh, I have a somewhat longer question. The longer I am on my spiritual journey, the more often it happens that during the day I sort of switch off and just exist. I don't know how to fully describe it, but I wrote you a while ago that it feels as if meditation suddenly starts meditating me. It's a very pleasant, harmonious feeling, except that from a practical perspective, it could be seen as laziness. Sometimes I struggle with getting fewer things done as a result. Do you think it's okay? I not only think it's okay, I think it's absolutely marvelous. And I want you to notice something, right? Yes, meditating is meditating itself. The I am is meditating on itself. And after a certain level of spiritual maturity comes about, you'll find it happening quite spontaneously. Now, in the beginning, that can feel a little bit disorienting simply because we're so used to things going the way they normally do. And then thoughts come up like, well, is this laziness? People are going to see me as lazy. I'm not getting as many things done as a result. That's all the mind trying to either take control over it or shut it down or something, because we have these ideas that we should be accomplishing certain things during our day, and there should be this number of things, and they should be this good, and the like. But notice first that you're saying it feels as if meditation is meditating me. Right? Very good. Meditation meditating on itself. Now, notice, take a step back and notice that prior to meditating you were there. You watched it happen. And you're still watching it happen. I'm sure it isn't happening 24 hours a day, so it's coming and it's going. It's coming, it's going. It's coming and it's going. Right? So to whom is it coming and going? You're watching. You're the one that says, "Oh, this is very, pleasant, harmonious feeling." And indeed it is. And then there's these other thoughts that pop up. Yeah, but aren't you supposed to be doing stuff? People could see you as lazy. Well, notice that those are also thoughts. I'm just continuing with the theme from my little opening chatter, that this is happening. The thoughts are there. They seem to connect with something in us because we don't want to appear lazy. We certainly don't want to appear that way to a boss if this is happening at work and the like. And if it is, and you're not getting done as much as you need to in the moment, you also are that which recognizes it. Oh, I see that, and make adjustments. Because if you're working someplace and there's certain requirements of what you have to do, certain output that's necessary, then yet you have to make a concession to their perception of it. But if it's just you're going through your day and you just stop and zone out, I do. I do. Sometimes I just kind of sitting here, just being. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do that here while I'm live streaming, because that would look very strange. Every tuning into the channel, I'm just kind of sitting here. No. When you're talking about being on air, it's like no dead airspace is allowed. So it's not going to interfere with anything. As a matter of fact, the more you're aware of it happening, the more you begin to realize that that you're even watching the meditation happening. That you are the ultimate seer of the whole thing. It's you, this self, the one right here, the one listening to me right now, is the self. Certainly the only one you know, right? So, okay, that's the self. So, notice that. Notice that there's this phenomena that you're experiencing where it seems to just be happening all by itself, which it is, perfectly natural. Anything you practice enough is going to happen all by itself. Eventually, it's just the nervous system just takes it over, shoop, 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 right? It makes it automatic, and it's just kind of happening. And then stand back and watch it. That this is just part of your spiritual growth. But pay attention that the thoughts will be there saying, it shouldn't be this way, it's wrong, this is not good, you're not getting enough done. Well, maybe a lot of the stuff you were getting done didn't really need to be done. And maybe those things that do will actually get more energy, more attention, more quality in them. But as I said, if you're in an environment where there's a certain level of output required, don't worry about just going back and producing it. Notice there's nothing wrong with any of it, unless your mind says, shouldn't be this way. Oh, I can't just produce this. I'm supposed to let the meditating happen. No, you don't have to. You say, meditation, thank you, you're wonderful. Go over here, I need to do this, and you do it. And you can be done, you go back to just kind of and enjoying just being. Why is it such a pleasant feeling? Because it's you. That's what you actually feel like. That's not a feeling that is coming and going, per se. That's what's there when we're no longer paying attention to all the stuff that's going on out here. Attention has withdrawn enough that there's some abeyance to this, some space. And in that space, what do you feel? Oh, it's peaceful. It's quiet. It's harmonious. It's that's you. That's what you actually feel like. That's the perfume of the self, is what Mooji calls it. It's the perfume, the fragrance of the real you, which is there all the time, but we don't notice it. And the point of meditation is to withdraw attention to all of the stuff going on long enough for us to get some distance between it, not be pulled into it all the time. Then attention can turn towards that which is aware of all the stuff going on, including the meditation that's withdrawing from it. And it just keeps going until the only thing that's left is you. Just you, with nothing extra added. Just factory equipment. No aftermarket anything. Just you. Just as you are. And that, a little bit later, you'll discover that this you, the one right here, the only one you know, that self is the self. But little by little, step at a time. Keisha, more greetings from Ontario, Canada. Apology accepted for the tariffs. Yeah. Thank you. Our orange-haired would-be tyrant and his followers. Do not ask me to explain logically that which is irrational cannot be explained logically because it's irrational. Hello, Brent. And Barb also saying hi to everybody. Wow, the whole gang's kind of is here. Joseph, let's see. It's Joseph. God on his mind. Hi, G and company. I have PTSD from something that occurred to me during my teenage years. It manifests as an intense block in my body. I'm slowly getting in touch with it. It's taking so long and it's difficult. Yeah. PTSD is it? What's actually happening, and I actually describe it in a great deal of depth in level 2 of my tapping course. Course is level 2 of 3, although I haven't written 3 yet. It dives into depth into what actually is happening in the nervous system that creates what is diagnosed later as PTSD or CPTSD. It's actually the freeze response, which is a very natural thing in the body. Fight, flight, freeze. These are the body's defense mechanisms. Stress is basically we're in fight and flight, right? On a low grade, but what we're trying to fight or run away from is imaginary. It's in our minds. It's ideas and concepts and stuff. The body was evolved to be fight and flight when there was an actual danger, being chased by the bear or something like that. Flight, run away, is always first choice for every critter. If they can't, it goes to fight. Very natural. Fear is the body preparing to run. Anger is the body preparing to fight. That's what it is. It's very natural. When it can't do either one of those, it can't run away and it can't fight, which it goes into another state, which is called freeze. And it literally shuts down. It just shuts down. You've probably heard of the example of the possum, the only North American marsupial that we have. And the possum is such a great example because it shuts down so completely. So completely disconnects from everything that it can actually be poked, kicked, bit. You can even break a bone and it will not respond. Everything's turned off. If you see a picture of a possum playing dead, it's dead. The heart is beating so faintly it would take an EKG to detect it. So it has completely cut itself off because it doesn't have any real defenses for fighting. It only has the defenses for running away. And it doesn't run very fast. Now, what's another condition under which you can't run and you can't fight? Childhood. All of childhood. Yes, all of childhood. More and more autonomy as we get older, but for the most part, we can't run. That's all that is when it gets stuck in a particular position, and it can be from just a consistent, sucky environment, or you can have those things which they label complex PTSD, CPTSD, or it can be something that happens as a result of an accident, a violation of some sort, something that is pretty much a one-off. But what it is it's in a free state and it can't get out of it. So everything is like that. I used to work with combat veterans who had severe PTSD, and it was like that. I mean, one guy that I worked with couldn't go shopping during the day. He would just get too triggered. Another guy who could not sleep unless he was dressed sitting in a chair. He had been doing like 3 tours of duty in Vietnam way back then. Yeah, up to, yeah. When I worked with him, I mean, it was 2000, like 40 years later, 30, 40 years after, because he was part of a patrol that could be woken up at any time during the night. They didn't know when. Could be 1 in the morning, could be 4 in the morning, and they had like 2 minutes to put their gear on and head out for a night patrol. And of course, on that night patrol, death was always imminent. It was just a constant threat of death for a year, or a couple of years actually. That guy, right? So when he came back, he couldn't sleep. Right? He would be like in his uniform. So he'd be dressed and have to fall asleep in a chair. And this is what happens. The nervous system gets frozen into a particular position because as far as it's concerned, the danger is still there. It doesn't know the war is over. It all. So look at whatever the cause of the of your sorry, keep hitting the wrong buttons here. So look at the actual cause of that happened during those teenage years when it happened, right? And it sounds like what you're saying. It was a very specific incident that took place that just left an indelible imprint on you. But from the nervous system's point of view, something bad like that happens. It goes into the reaction, and it then puts itself in a state to try to make sure that it never happens again. So it's always on the lookout for that event to occur, even though it's not even possible for that event to occur anymore. And even if it did, you're not a teenager. You're not the same anymore. This is the kind of thing that I use tapping for, because it's so incredibly effective at giving the nervous system a sense of being safe. And in that safety, it can then be invited to open up and see if the condition it's defending against still exists. But you can't do this with your mind. You can't do this with talk therapy. You have to invite it, the nervous system. At least that's the way I do it. There's other people who do it differently. There's somatic experiencing that you can look it up. Peter Levine designed, came up with it, created a whole bunch of different exercises, very simple exercises that he too has worked with combat veterans. EFT is my energy healing thing of choice, but check it out. And you can also, I will probably be doing a tapping open house at some point here before I start my next level 1 tapping immersion. And I do recommend immersing yourself in it, because it takes a while for the nervous system to really adapt itself to a new environment where safety is the norm, and then you get a whole new default level of response, reaction, and the like. But that takes some time and practice. So there's my energy healing discussion for today. All of a sudden, there's 2 lights up here too, so you all can see me. So backlit. So how's that, Joseph? Is that helpful? AI God. What I would rather do a proper sadhana than reading and understanding wisdom. Yeah, the reading it's useful. We need a little bit of information. I mean, we run across things, either teaching or a teacher or a book or something that kind of lights us up. We resonate with it. We say, whoa, okay, something's here. Something's drawing me to this. But for a lot of people, what happens is that they end up just getting stuck in the book. When we encounter genuine spiritual teachings, like non-dual self-inquiry, our first encounter is usually, almost always, some kind of written material or a video on YouTube or something that you see that piques our interest. But even with the interest peaked, we look at it, but we're going to see it from the perspective that we already have. We're not going to. It's going to be trying to be understood in context, and because all of us have been trained to rely on our minds and that kind of thinking, that we're going to miss the whole point of it. In order to get the point of it and do a proper sadhana, other than just reading and understanding wisdom, you need a teacher. You need somebody who's embodying that, who can point the things out to you, because, especially true in non-dual self-inquiry, it needs to bring about in you a shift in the context, in how you're seeing it. That's the real effect of it. So you see it and everything else differently. Otherwise, it's just some interesting, maybe even logically cool teaching that your mind can now take and do something with, and says, "Oh, look, I understand wisdom," and can quote the Bhagavad Gita or something. And that's what happens without without some kind of exposure to an actual teacher. In person is best, but it can be done. We can do it through online, some videos and things like that. But at some point, you're going to have to interact with a teacher who can walk with you and point out the things that you're just not seeing. Ask questions you didn't think about. Poke at some of the assumptions you've never looked at. So that's finding your proper sadhana is we all at some point in our many lives come to the place where we become a genuine seeker. It's magic time. It's a special, auspicious life when that happens. Rarely within that life, that first life where you become a real spiritual seeker, do you actually experience the fulfillment of that. That normally takes several different lifetimes. But eventually it comes to the one where you really, this is the path. This is the ultimate, this is the final path. At least for me, this is the final path for you. Prior to that, there may be different teachers, different kinds of paths, different kinds of ways of looking at things. That's part of the process of the seeker being developed, being matured, being refined, till that the seeker fulfills itself in finding the final path, the Satguru, as it's called, the ultimate guru. And the ultimate guru is always pointing you back to the real guru, which is inside of you. Until finally, even the seeker is seen as just another phase, being witnessed by that which the seeker has been seeking all along. The seeker finds that it is in fact that what has been sought is their own nature, their own being, their being itself. It's like the ocean, the waves on the ocean, looking for the ocean. It's a big ocean, can go quite a distance until it's finally recognized that, oh, I am the ocean. That's kind of the final curtain on the deal. Well, sadhana changes all along the way. Right? It's a very, you could call that one it's kind of the awakening to know that I've got to go somewhere. And there's other ones, an awakening that awakens to the possibility, maybe a bit of the recognition that I'm not who I think I am, that I actually am what I'm seeking. It's not clear yet. The sense of I is still very, very muddled up. But I refer to that moment as the post-awakening sadhana. This awakening, we can think of it as the ultimate enlightenment, Buddhahood, and all of that. Or we can see it as something that is that and unfolds over time. So it's both. And the beauty is that the sadhana that gets you to the awakening is actually the same sadhana post-awakening, but its character, its energy is different. It'll look the same. To any onlookers, it will look like the same thing is happening. Turn down this heat. But in fact, it's being done from a completely different perspective. Yeah. You're no longer performing sadhana to get there, to the self. You are performing sadhana increasingly as the self, which many people are doing without yet knowing it. Which is very fun. Yeah. So there's my little thing about sadhana, which is like very, very important. Yeah. Those of you who just thought, there may be some of you who don't know what sadhana is. Sadhana simply means your spiritual practice. Right? Whatever it is, practices you take up along your spiritual path. So it can be many, many different things. So, hey, Seraphim, greetings, Gigi, from Middle Earth. Good. How are things down there? A great place, Middle Earth, yeah. Sylvia, oops, I started something earlier. Did I miss something? Because it seems like it's picking up. Oh, maybe it's just not a capital letter. Actually, anger feels better because you can use to do things as motivation, while fear is paralyzing. I'd rather have anger, but I struggle with fear sometimes, even without apparent reason. Anger is a much more active, it's more focused. It's a more focused energy. Remember, fear and anger are both natural defense mechanisms in the body. Anger wants to directly engage, right? I mean, and we need, anger, and we need anger. That's how we set boundaries. We go, no, you cannot go past this, right? So we're defending our territory, right? And, God help you if you step into the territory of something like a lion or a wolf. They'll let you know about it. You do not go past this. That's the very natural and very necessary function of anger. Fear is focus away from there. And so all the energy is get away. That's the fear that's so difficult when what we're afraid of is something that's a projection of the mind. Right? What might happen creates fear within the system. But because we can't run, we can't hide, you can't fight it, right? Because it's in our minds. It's a projection of what might have, which you can't fight or run away from, because it's right here. That's when we get paralyzed. And that what you call paralyzed is the freeze mechanism of the nervous, it just shuts down. It just goes. Because what can you do? The only two options available to it are not available to it, and it's just going to, right? So you can work with that. When you feel yourself in that, you can recognize that right this moment, your nervous system is experiencing something in the environment or something going on in your mind that it cannot function with. It has no remedy for it. It can't fight it and it can't run away. So you can simply ask it. Again, this is where I will use tapping and say, what are you protecting me from? If we regard the fear and the anger as natural occurrences and not as something that has to be done away with, we begin to just accept them for what they are, and that we don't know what's triggered them. Right? But they have been triggered. Now, you don't go in your mind saying, well, how did it get triggered? You don't have to do that. The only thing you have to do is learn how to create a safe space. That's all you have to do. That's why level one, level one is its title is The Art of Creating a Safe Space. Because the foundation of all energy healing, as far as I'm concerned, all healing, is creating an environment safe enough for the nervous system itself to detect it and begin to adapt to it, which it will do, because that's all it does is adapt. That's the only thing it does. It's perfectly adapted to everything. As long as the environment remains the same, it's not going to budge. So you're not going to be able to get rid of the fear, right? or the anger. The anger just feels better because at least you're not running away and there's no place to run. You're fighting, but of course there's no one to fight. Yeah. Fear turns into paralysis. Anger turns into rage. It's just flailing in all directions because where's the enemy? Well, it's here. Right? It's not actually in the environment. It can be things like an unreasonable boss, right? Or a difficult relationship. There's just a lot of conflict between you and your partner, and you're angry with each other or something like that, and it's got So there are those circumstances that can trigger it, but at least those you can look at. Okay, it's a problem with my boss. How do I deal with my boss? Something can happen. The thing that's so difficult for us to grasp, and what the real cause of our stress is, are what we imagine the future is going to be like. We start with a blank canvas, which is the future, because nobody really knows. And then the mind projects on it its worst fears in the hope that if I know they're coming, I can do something to remain safe when they come. But of course you can't, because they're not here. So it just sets up this cycle of stress, which can turn into panic or chronic anxiety. But that is what it is. That's why I recommend people take my class, because I show folks exactly what to do under those circumstances. And I wish I could just say, here, do this, 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 and this. Well, you can't. You can just tap. There's some somatic exercises you can do. Take 3 deep breaths. There are things you can do right in the moment. But for long-term freedom from that means the baseline of safety that the nervous system operates from has to be raised. As that happens, you find yourself less and less stressed at all. It never even gets started. The mind isn't projecting things off into the worst scenario off into the future. It's actually good. Well, this could be very good. It become less risk averse, and because the body feels safe. It's all about safety, the whole deal, which is why I focus so much attention on it. And the modality I use for that is, well, it's actually inner reconciliation, which is what I named the whole process, but it's not really even a process, it's a context. But I use EFT because it's easy, it's direct, and it communicates safety through touch. So while you're tapping, the body is receiving the message of safety, but because it goes directly to the body and not through the mind isn't sitting there with a checklist. Well, no, it's not safe. No, it's not. Feeding the nervous system, the reactive parts of us, the information that it's not safe. But this just kind of goes around it. It goes right in, and it does. It does actually have an effect, and very, very fast, because that's all it needs. It's a process running, right? It's nothing fighting you in there, right? It's purely an automatic process. It conforms itself to the environment. The environment changes, it changes. Now, getting into non-dual self-inquiry, we actually go a dimension below all of the nervous system and all that kind of process and the like. But you can't use non-duality as kind of an end run to try to get around it. You actually have to go through it. And there are ways to do that very simply. It's very rare that anyone could do it solely through self-inquiry. Very, very rare. Which is why I have these other techniques I use to help people get to the point where the inquiry can really take root. That it's not fighting against emotional stress and the like, trying to overcome it, right? But instead just kind of making friends with it and walking right through it. Because what is the most safe thing in the entire world? Unconditional love. Totally safe. No defense needed. So, Brock, my buddy, I started dating a great guy. Last night we discussed religion. He loves going to church. I can't stand going to church. I think religion is an invention of Satan, if there is a Satan. I can't wait to tell him that you're my church. What church is it? You know, not all churches are horrible. There's like Unity, which is actually, depending where you're, Palm Springs, I think it's got a pretty big Unity. And some of them are actually pretty good, and actually some are even like waking up or being much more aware of Christ's admonition to love your neighbor as yourself, love God, love your neighbor, which is seems to have been forgotten by all the Christian nationalists and the like. It's religion in its present form is an invention of the ego. It serves the purposes of the ego. You could say that the ego is Satan. Right? Remember, Satan, the devil, Lucifer, all those, Lucifer and Satan in the Old Testament are not the same character. That happened later, and they got stuck together. They got all mashed up, and so everybody thinks Lucifer, Satan, the same thing. Lucifer is actually a name. It just means the angel of light. That's what it is. Light, the light bearer. Right. And it's used in a couple of places negatively, but the actual scholarship shows it to be that it was used sarcastically towards a king that was that the Israelites did not like very much. So it was like they talked about the angel of light, referring to the king, being thrown down. It has nothing to do with what it became later. Satan was actually a title. Yes, a Satan. It was a prosecuting attorney. It was anything that obstructs you is a Satan. It became a proper name much later, and then became the devil, and then because of the the ridiculous notion that nature had somehow fallen, Satan, the devil, Lucifer, now all just kind of combined into this thing, got projected on the nature god Pan, and that's where we get the horns, the trident, the hoofed feet, and all of that. They demonized nature. So it could be controlled. So, but the religious sentiment, the desire to know the truth, which is what the religious sentiment is, the desire to surrender your own will and your own and your own interest, in, to take your will, take your desires, take everything, and submit to something higher than the ego, that you eventually find out is in fact the real you. That gets twisted. That's where it starts. Little by little, those who do not get that, it becomes a cultural tool. It's enforcing of rules. Satan is the guy who's going to get you, right? As if God didn't do a good enough job himself of getting you, right? And it's just what happens when completely uninspired, unawakened people take the language and insights of the inspired and awake people and turn it into a tool to substantiate and justify their particular culture, which is completely invented, man-made, made up, pulled out of their ass, because it serves particular interests, as it still does, and then give it an authority outside of itself that should not be questioned. That's, ends up being an empire. Empire falls, another empire takes its place. This is how it works. At the essence of it, there is there is a religious sentiment, which you have, right? The essence of the religious sentiment is what? Love. The love of truth. And the desire to be one with truth. It's the highest calling. The original use of that word Satan, simply to mean an obstruction, it's an obstruction to the realization of yourself as the truth. Which is, there's all sorts of subtle little ways in which Satan, and a better word for it in the Sanskrit is Maya, the great illusion. That's what's obstructing our full realization of who we actually are. So, so we're all in that church, my friend. I just may be sitting up front now at the altar. I should get myself a little altar, don't you think? Like some candles and incense and stuff like that. Wear orange. I got to wear orange, but I need a bigger beard. I need a bigger beard. Yeah. So good to have you here, Brock. Wonderful. Hope it goes well between you and your and the guy you're dating. Yeah. David and Elaine, we understand how important shadow work is in this process of self-inquiry. Can shadow work be adopted as a practice similar to meditation, or is it waiting for a trigger and focusing on it then? My approach is to the ongoing things of like meditation, self-inquiry, looking closely. And you guys are far along the spiritual path, but for those not quite as far, I will use EFT and the like to. I also have ways of using that as a practice for stabilizing and raising the default level of the nervous system. Meditation does that just fine as well. Mindfulness does it. A variety of things can do that. And so on one side there is the emphasis on that consistency that is kind of bringing about a transformation, an alchemy happening inside. Right? So it isn't as reactive in the first place. Right? A lot of the triggers are being disarmed. And then just whatever comes up in the moment. All of a sudden a trigger happens, boom, it's there. And you weren't expecting it, right? Of course you're not. You're not going to, we had a whole bunch of them that we don't know are there because the button simply hasn't been pushed. So oftentimes when I'm working with people, especially get further along, and there is some new level being attained and stabilized, and I'll actually start pushing the buttons myself, purposely. right? If somebody's working on something in particular and they finally get to this place where it's really stable, I'll just start poking the bear a bit, see what happens, right? Because you want to try to get all of it, just all of it. So you create the environment, but it's when that happens, boom, 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 when that pushing of the button happens, it's in a safe environment. You just don't do that anywhere, right? It's in a safe environment, so that it can come up. It's not going to do any damage to anybody, and then and it's safe enough it can be seen, which means with intentional triggering, which is what I call it, because that's what it is. Things can be dispensed with very, very, very quickly. Yeah. So does that answer it for you guys? Shadow work. I just, in terms of shadow work and things like that, or inner child work, I let it come. Right? If in meditation something comes up that's like, oh, I see an aspect of myself that's still kind of hanging around, recognize that it's an energy pattern. It's still hanging around because there's some stuck energy there, and simply regard it with love. Even the intent to heal it or change it or do anything with it, just regard it as love, and let it be there in the meditation. That may be all it needs to dissolve. If it persists, then you might want to do whatever particular technique you're using to do shadow work, engage it on that level. But there's an assumption that if it comes out, I got to work on it. Everything comes up, we start tapping, we start doing this stuff. I never assume that. I don't assume anything. I used to think I knew all this stuff, and I go, I haven't a clue. It's there. That's it. I let it tell me what it needs, and all I do is create a safe space for it. So there's a very common belief among mainstream practitioners of psychotherapy and the like, as well as more fringe stuff and energy healers, that whenever anything comes up, it needs to be worked on. Don't assume that. All you know for sure is that it came up. There it is. That we know. So you just be with it lovingly. And oftentimes that's all it needs. It just needs to know that there's love here. It needs to know it's heard, it's seen. Right? And then the shadow will simply integrate back into you. Because that's all it is. It's just an aspect of us that has been alienated because of traumatic events, stuff that happened in childhood and the like. But it's just an aspect of yourself that has been disconnected with. In shamanism, they call it soul fragmentation. It's really, inner child, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's energy, it got stuck at a certain time, it's still there, it's still operating, it's still seen as other than you. But when you see it, it actually just is you, and you regard it with love, it dissolves and just shoot, right? And the disconnect disappears, the alienation disappears. The shamans would do a ritual that would just invite all those back to the fire, back to the home, back into the place where they are safe. So, Mary Sykes, your story of the soldier is true for myself. I can fall asleep while sitting in a chair, but it's not so easy when I lay down in bed. Yeah. There's some kind of trauma there, for whatever reason. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to figure it out. But what I would do is, when it's time to go to bed, I'd stay in the chair, right? This was me too, right? And for me, it was the direct result of the fact that when I was young, starting at 2 till I was about 6, my mother tied me into the bed every night. I think it was every night. I don't remember it all, obviously. But, she tied my brother and I in the backyard too, because she was nuts and she didn't really want to do anything. God knows where she went. She kind of zoned out. But So for the longest time, I wouldn't go to bed till I fell asleep on the couch. So just as you're sitting there in the chair and you're afraid to go to sleep, yes, I know you're afraid of some reason, for some reason to go to sleep. You're in my level 1 tapping class. Those of you who are, you can make recommendations, people. You can say, oh, it's great, it's great. If you don't think it was great, say something on somebody else's site. And just lovingly embrace whatever it is that is afraid to just lay down in bed. Right? It's got to stay alert and just be present with it very gently. Right? And then get up and see what happens is if you get to a point where there's a certain amount of release, a certain amount of relaxation, get up and just walk to your bedroom door. See what happens. It's okay. Keep going and change into your bed stuff. Of course, you don't wear bed stuff, in which case, take off your clothes. See what happens. Sit on the bed. Lay down on the bed. Just ease yourself into it. And at every step, just stop with whatever's there. Tap with it. And it won't take very long before whatever it is, whatever energy is stuck there that is resistant to that, will begin to relax. Because we're just showing it that whatever the circumstance was that got it stuck, it's not there anymore. But it needs to see that. It needs to see that. So interesting. More energy healing advice today than non-dual self-inquiry. So we'll get there. Maybe there was some here that I can jump over there, but I only say what comes to my mind. That's it. I'm not really a teacher. I just say what comes to my mind. And it seems to work. So, Ida, tapping open house. Oh, you're up for that, huh? Yeah. I'm going to do that before I start the next level 1 group, which will probably be, beginning of March. Yeah, that's probably looking at, and everybody's already waiting. The level 1s are already waiting for level 2, and my level 2s are waiting for level 3, which I haven't even written yet. So I got some work to do. Yeah. So Barb says, CPTSD question. So when I stop blaming myself, anger, and then shame, it kind of lands in disappointment with others, not even anger with them, and then I feel unmotivated. Like I still need you, but you're not enough. Does this sound like freeze? No, that's coming out of freeze, my love. The freeze would be just, it's just shut down. It can't even, it's just frozen. Right? The blaming of oneself, the anger, the inner critic, the shame, right, is all sitting on top of that. Underneath that, as you get more deeply in, you find just this, it's kind of like a resignation. A disappointment is good. That's a good word. Because imagine a child not being able to get its needs met, and that's the source of CPTSD as opposed to just PTSD. Childhood and war, where it's continued exposure to continual danger, which is what childhood is. That you're in this position, you can't get angry, right? You can't express any hate, which is there in kids. You can't express just what's the matter with you, just complete disappointment. I mean, bordering on despair. It's just like, great. The child is recognizing the circumstance it's really in. And it has given up on getting it from that source. Which, of course, because it can only get it from that source, it can't possibly accept that. So that disappointment gets buried. And underneath that becomes, it's your fault, you're to blame, there must be something you can do, come on, get to work, get to work, get to work. As you get through that layer, which you are, and you get to this point of just like, oh, there's really nothing I can do. You're at the mother lode. You're at the actual feeling that was there of just total, and it is a freeze. It's just like, there's nothing I can do. So just be with that. Yeah, there was nothing you could do. Yeah. And there was nobody there to acknowledge it. So the first thing you do is you acknowledge it. You become the aware, enlightened witness of that substantiates and validates the experience. And yeah, it's holding your motivation. You need it as much as it needs you, because that's motivation that's been frozen. In order to survive and not just sit there and just die, the body had to move, it had to do stuff. And that's why the anger, the inner critic, the shame, all of that is there to move, to get you to move, because otherwise you die. Literally. That's what happens with the kids. They don't, because other stuff can prompt them. But what's really happening is you're awakening the real motivation that does not need to be pushed by anger, shame, judgment, pressure. Doesn't need it. So just let the child give up and hold them. It's so simple. Just look at her. Just be with her. In your mind, you can hold her. You can tap on her, or just tap on yourself for her. You can use that as part of it. But the most thing is to simply just be there and loving, acknowledging, yes, this is what happens, this is who you are. This is what you experienced, but it's not all there is to you. Yes, you couldn't get it there, but it doesn't mean you can't get it at all. In fact, even though I'm really bad at this, I'm incompetent, I'm giving you that recognition as best I can. Watch what happens. You've actually gotten below all of the anger and stuff to the actual kind of shutdown that is what had to be. I mean, it's stuck there, right? And if it stays there, it'll be lights out. So it can't do that. The body says, but it can't do anything. The body can't do anything with that. So it just has to push this down, lay other stuff on, get the body to move and be motivated. So you're doing well. Yeah, wow. That is good stuff. I think self-acceptance and love is nearby in this realization, but it's still disappointing. Yeah, be with the disappointment. It's very important. It's very real. It's maybe too complicated of a question. Oh, not at all. Just wondering if it sounds like freeze or empowerment. The empowerment has been shut down by the freeze, but it's not what we normally think empowerment is. It is just natural self-motivation of life that does not need external forces to make it do that. So, complicated question? Not yet. We're playing Stump the Guru, right? We're looking for that grand prize winner, right? Hey, G. I know you talked about this before, but can you explain about rebirth and samadhi? The reason I ask is certain religions see human birth as this horrible thing. Every promise is to not have one. No complaint, but I feel like it's a sad outlook on life. Yeah, it's a misunderstanding of what life actually is, what birth is and death is, what samadhi is, and its basis is in something that's actually true, but if you look really close, you'll find it as a someone, a person, a sense of I, trying to get out of the birth and death, and Shiva's wheel cycle. That I that's trying to get out can't get out because it is all being born and dying and being reborn, dying and being reborn. That I, different shapes, different lives, different experiences, maybe in different planets, but that I, that sense of I, is always the way to go beyond birth and rebirth, and the need for samadhi, is the recognition of that which is aware of the births and the deaths and the rebirths and the I that wants to get out of them. Is that clear? And so it is the desire to be free of birth and death, of Shiva's wheel, is valid, and we want to be free from thinking that you are dying and being reborn all the time. And then eventually you see that because it's what we call birth and death is simply a constant transformation of, we can call it energy. It's not actually what it is, but the form maker, right? Whatever it is that goes into form, it's a continual transformation to the point where it wouldn't matter how thinly you slice time, you'll never find anything there. So there is the appearance, the experience of something appears, it develops, changes, goes through all sorts of stuff, and then dissolves, right? Which is happening all the time, but there's nothing actually coming into existence, dancing, and then dissolving, right? Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. That is what is experienced, but there's nothing that's dying, being born or being reborn. Knowing that, you see it as simply as, well, the cycles of unfoldment of being, of the manifestation of being, and you are the I, the ultimate I, the I is beyond I, that is the witness of that happening, and it is a manifestation of that I, but you are not dying, you're not being reborn. You are not on the wheel. So the wheel can keep going. Has nothing to do with me. There's a car driving by, keep going. There's nothing to do with me. Where it's going, wherever it wants. But it is the manifestation of yourself, that which is witnessing it. This is what most mistake. We all would have mistook it unless some teacher showed up in our lives that pointed it out. I don't know any other way that it happens. Somebody just comes up and says, "You're not who you think you are. Put your attention on the I am." So, it's not a horrible thing. Matter of fact, even looking at it from the point of, not from the point of the absolute perception, but just the point of spiritual growth, the goal of spiritual inquiry is to transcend birth and death, but only to do that by recognizing that the I that is born and that is dying and being reborn doesn't actually exist, and there's nothing being born and nothing is dying. On the path to that, we will experience we will experience all of those things, but begin to be more and more of the witness of them, and as the purity of the witness grows, the effect that these have become negligible. This is the end of suffering, but it is such an important process that it happened as it does, karma must fulfill itself, right? Even Jesus said that to John the Baptist. Yeah, that to be born in a human form is the most auspicious thing a human being that the energy needs in order to realize itself, because this is the only place that it happens. The human being is in this place in between the heavens and perfections and the hells and suffering. All the extremes of opposites of manifestation are all here, and they're nowhere else. Only there can you find the absolute middle way, in total equanimity to no matter what's happening. There's the freedom, and then and this is the only place it can happen. That's right. It's right from the Buddha, which is a pretty reliable source, as far as I know. Arya asked her, hi. Hi, G. What are your thoughts on near-death experiences? I had one, a 1 week Isha Kriya meditation. After 2 years, I still struggle to know myself sometimes. Well, a near-death experience is very powerful. Usually, they leave the one who experiences it with a deep conviction that there's way more than just this life, which does make these beautiful adjustments, resets priorities. People's lives are just really, really significantly changed by them. I can't speak directly to your Isha Kriya meditation. Did you actually, was it like an experience because of the meditation? Did you actually die? Or have the near-death thing like medically diagnosed as such? But what happens in deep meditation, samadhi, Kriya meditation, like you're referencing in near-death experiences in plant ceremonies with plant medicines, there is for a time, the sense, our normal sense of self, our normal identity that we walk around with all the problems and all the stuff, gets pushed to the side, and we have a completely different experience of everything, which changes us from the inside out. It really does transform us. It resets priorities, like I said before. Then what happens is we want to stay there, but we can't, because it is just an experience that's being had. It's shuffled the deck for sure, but there's a sadhana that has to be, a path that needs to be walked after that. Because what happens is it's a temporary abeyance. The rest of the stuff comes back up again. It can look different, right? But it will be the assertion of a separate sense of self once again. And even it'll be the I that, oh, I had this experience. It'll even say, look, I had an enlightenment experience. So the shapeshifter sense of I just takes on a new shape. The path, at least this path, is looking beyond all forms the I might take to the one who's aware of those forms, which starts simply with the sense, looking at the sense I am, staying with the sense of I am, even for short periods of time. I talk about it at the beginning of this if you weren't here in the beginning. And so the struggle to know yourself is part of the seeking path. It's part of the deal, man. Or, yeah, it is, man. Yeah. It's part of the deal. Who am I? That's the question, right? So you say, I'm struggling to know myself. What I sense then is there's some some bit of knowledge or practice that you can gain that's going to eventually show you who you are. And there's the mistake. You'll be struggling to know that forever because you're not anything that you can know as a piece of knowledge or an object like out in the world. You are that which knows. Okay? Which means you're that right now. Who you are, the one that you are experiencing the struggle to know, is the one that's hearing my words right now. It's the one that sees the struggle happening. It's the one having all the experience. But simply because this is, for whatever reason, we have identified with the struggle, the near-death experience, the meditation, and the like, as a person. And we're looking for the best idea of myself. There is no best idea of yourself. The idea cannot fathom or conceive of the infinite, which is what you actually are. No boundaries. No fixed shape. Because if it was a fixed shape, there would be a limit on it. It would not be infinite. So the self you are looking for is in fact the one doing the looking. To put it the way St. Francis of Assisi put it, he said, what you are looking for is where you are looking from. It's the last place we look. We have all these experiences, and then we are looking for ourselves in the experience. But aren't you the one looking? Isn't that actually you? And isn't that just right here now? So the real practice is withdrawing our attention, the sense of I, and all of that from looking for ourselves in the forms. Let the forms be there. They're not a problem. And learn to bring attention more and more back to that which is doing all the seeing, but it itself cannot be seen. Because if it could be seen, it would mean it would be an object. And then I'd have to ask you, well, if it's seen, who's looking at it? That's the nature of this path. If that interests you, I have the Self-Inquiry Sangha where we do this kind of inquiry every week on a Wednesday. So you can get a nice heavy dose of it. Do I have a link to that I can give people? I think it's just Sangha. I'll just put it here. So, HTTPS. School.ca/SANGHA. There it is. I think that's right. Somebody will tell me if I'm wrong. But if you want to join, get a week free. Try it out. It's just $47 a month. It's like cheap for four times a month. It's worth the price. What a great value that is compared to. We started out so I can make fun of marketers. But are you following this? Are you? These experiences are pointers. There's no such thing as an ultimate experiencer. There's only the ultimate experiencer, who is not an experience, cannot be experienced, cannot be conceived of, perceived of, put into any shape or any form. And that is the real you. So join us. We have a great time, if you like. Anybody else, too, is interested in making this a practice, right? Rather than to really focusing your practice, right? Becoming more one-pointed about where you want to head in your life. Let's check the banners for. Oh yeah, there is. Okay, that's cool. Yes, I'll do that in a little bit. Yeah, the Reclaiming God thing coming up. Oh boy, we jumped around here. Hold on a second. Barb says, yes, thank you. I'm giving up on them. That's good. Oh, yeah, that's very good. Yeah. She gave up. And of course, there was no other place for her to go. But now you can help her because you do know other places to go. And so she can give up on them. Yeah. And instead, rely on you, and the two of you become one. Lily. Hello, Lily. Do you see any difference between acceptance and compassion? Nothing really appreciable, nothing important, right? When you accept things as they are, right, without trying to fix them or change them or anything, but at the same time being willing to be moved to change what you can, do what you can under any different circumstance, but being willing to be with your own pain and loss and all the stuff that we are subject to as human beings, and being willing to be able to do that. And because that's been cultivated in you enough, you can do it for others. You see that, people like to call it compassion when you do it for others, acceptance when you do it for yourself. There's really no difference, right? Compassion is simply accepting things as they are, accept people as they are, where they are, and with the desire to do whatever you can for them, which sometimes is simply be present and do nothing. And maybe even sometimes just listen to them complain, right? Because nobody will let them do that, and they got to complain, and they can get it out of them. But within both, when they are both guided by the consort of compassion, which is wisdom, there's always something looking for the opportunity to do something, if possible. There's not pushing or anything. There's no agenda. There's no preconceived notion as to how it goes. That you're just with someone and yourself completely empty. And there's a wisdom there that will have just the right word at just the right time. Just a hand on the shoulder or a hug. Something that can shift that energy in a heartbeat. Because the essence of compassion is unconditional love. And unconditional love heals. Because in its presence, no defense is needed, no resistance is needed. There's nothing, you don't need to defend against unconditional love, which means everything just relaxes. Which means even what I'm going through right here, right now, can be accepted. Just as, it's a state that comes and goes. This is what it does. And I totally yield to it. In that surrender is where you find the end of birth and death. That's the end of Shiva's wheel. So let the wheel go. I'm surrendered to it. At that point, you are no longer dying. You're no longer being born. Acceptance and compassion are exactly the same. They're both different words, different ways people think about unconditional love and infinite wisdom, which are a couple. They're very happily married. In fact, in the East, in Asia, the most popular of all of the deities is the goddess Kwannon, also known as Kuan Yin, Kwanum, Kanzeon, a bunch of different names. And Kwanum, this goddess, is the goddess of both wisdom and compassion. And in the Chinese alphabet, the symbol for mind and the symbol for heart are the same symbol. It's this merge in between, just off the charts, infinite intelligence and unrestricted, unconditional love that are one. So, Ms. Nay, I hope that answers. Let me know if that does it for you, Lily. Ms. Nay, hey G, I often find myself trying to go into fixie mode. Oh, wow, I've been up since my whole days have shifted, and I like waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up. I'm in the gym at 5. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Where am I? Fixing mode when suppressed emotions tried to come up. I dealt with depression in childhood, and it was shamed a lot. Okay. Expressing emotions wasn't safe. Yeah, I know that one. Growing up, and there was a lot of expectation to be happy. Come on, be happy. Be happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. Oh my God, how insane we are. I've noticed at times the mind using a non-dualism to escape feeling. Oh, yeah. And notice, before I go on, you notice the mind using non-dualism. Who are you? Who are you that can notice, see the mind functioning, and even see the non-dual? Recognizing mind is mind, non-dual is non-dual. And that in this instance, it's operating to escape the feeling of it's depression, of the whatever it is, whatever's coming up, right? Also, a lot of fear not getting non-dualism, right? Of course, the mind is going, you're not getting it. If you did, we could get around this, right? Which triggers anxiety. Yeah, I think it's linked to inner child identity with being a disappointment and wanting to be perfect and acceptable. Could you provide ways to just be with suppressed emotions in healthy, non-dual ways without escaping? Well, you don't need to be with it in non-dual ways, because you can see the non-duality is already here. You noticed it. You see the emotions coming up. You see the energy that has been conditioned into trying to suppress it. When it learned about non-dualism, it goes, oh, okay, here's a better way I can suppress it. It's all the same energy. Now, the first thing to do is to begin to practice allowing the feelings to be there. Right? You don't have to be non-dual with them. In fact, don't. Don't be. That actually will come later. And notice that right off the get-go, right this moment, you've already taken the leap. You've already seen it all. And what is your desire? What is it that you really want here? You want to be with them without trying to escape. Okay? So start there. That's a pure desire. I want to be with them, and a lot of me does not want to be with them. Honest, right? We're honest. And I'm trying to get rid of them, but now I'm trying to get rid of me trying to get rid of them. Is there a non-dual way to do that? Okay. Instead, just notice, here I am. There's these very uncomfortable feelings coming up. And I want to be free of them. Of course we do. Nobody wakes up, oh, I'm going to be non-dual today and I'm just going to love all my horrible feelings. I feel like shit. Isn't that great? It's just, no, there they are. There's the desire to be free from them. Over here you see all this energy, which, because of our ignorance of the past, has used all these things to try to become free of it. So that desire to be free is there. It's been there the whole time, right? Which is the essence behind the motivation behind all non-dual self-inquiry. Now, when you do that, and you just see that, all of these elements there, the fixing, the desire to be free, the uncomfortable energy that's there, the desire to be with it in whatever way you can, maybe even a desire to see if you can love it, maybe it's got a purpose or something like that. Let all of them be there, right? And don't take sides. All you know is, I want to be free. I don't care how. Do you care how? I mean, really, oh no, it's got to be like this, or I refuse to accept being happy. But it's just, no, they're all there. If you don't take sides, there's a very natural energy of harmonization that will take place. You see the fixing, thank you. I know what you're trying to do. I know you're just trying to keep me safe. You're trying to make freedom happen. It's okay. Thank you very much. I will need all that energy at some point. Now, notice where you are when that's happening. That you're not any of those. And in this place of just not taking sides, you are expressing, however slightly it might be, non-dual, unconditional love. Non-dual, in this case, meaning it's not taking a side. It's not here saying, this is good, this is bad. It's just this open spaciousness. I call this the peacemaker. You call it the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, which I call the peacemaker. It is the witness that does not have a vested interest in what it's witnessing. You see, it all folds in. And it points to the non-dual, but it's not trying to take non-dual knowledge and impose it on it. It's trying to turn it into a therapeutic, right? Or an energy healing device. It's not. So I would invite you into the EFT class. I have a lot of people there that are people who have kind of gone through the non-duality ringer with just this emphasis that ends up becoming yet another way to suppress emotions. And I take them through some emotional healing before we go back into non-duality. And actually, if you join the EFT class, you have the option of joining my non-duality self-inquiry Sangha at the same time, so that you can benefit for both if you're in those two. As a matter of fact, most everybody who was in the self-inquiry Sangha went through that with me, because self-inquiry used to be more about tapping and emotional healing. So, yeah, I'd highly recommend that for you. I don't. Let me see if I have a link to that. I can put up there. EFT. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I can check here really quickly to see if that one works. Is it going to the right place? Yeah. That is to join it. If it's not that expensive. It's very simple. Because it's a multi-week program, but 4 different ways to pay for it. It's not outrageously expensive for a training and multi-week course. And if you can't afford that, you just let me know. And I've not turned down anybody so far. We work out some way in which you can be a part of that. So by all means, check that out. There's a link there for you now. Also next Saturday, I'm doing the Reclaiming God workshop. You can find out about that here, /God, which I haven't been doing a lot of, other than the EFT courses and the Sangha. I haven't done any workshops about anything, but I've just had so many people that I've encountered and have come to me about it, who were really quite traumatized by their experience with extreme evangelicals or the Catholic Church, which the evangelicals took and made even worse. So really, really deep fears, all sorts of stuff that is actually not that hard to undo, but it takes a little It takes a little time. Because it is traumatic. You've been traumatized. If you're part of one of those groups, you're terrified to just even feel your own feelings, because God gonna get you. Oh, don't forget a workshop for reclaiming the goddess. Yes, I'm getting a lot of encouragement, you might say. You also might call it kicks in the ass about doing a workshop for women. And I've been thinking about doing one for men, just for men. Although the thing about men is usually when I do one, I don't get many men signing up. Do it for women, they'll sign up. And funny enough, when I have done it for men, they're women who have pushed them to sign up. So it's pretty funny. So if my female students have a man in their life that they like to enough of those, and you'll do the poking, I'll put it on. I've also had people in the various things I've done for men who are transgender. Works just as well. It works just as well. Actually, fabulously. So, I already told my husband about the meth. Very, very good. So anyway, I'll take that off the screen. I guess I should put it here too. Yes, homeschool.ca/God. You got to say it like that too. It's like, and God said. There we go. Let's see. Let me take you off the screen. You're done now. Okay. Back to comments. Okay, let's see. Hendrik, good to see you, my friend. So good. Lily, on the rebirth, so you might be reborn as a human, but understand that there's no someone to be human. It's like that. It's the experience of the self through the eyes of the human. In Buddhism and many of those kinds of traditions, you've not only lived life as a human, but also as a deer, as a muskrat, as a mosquito. All are different perspectives. They're different views of the one self. And the uniqueness and the auspiciousness of being born a human, which Buddha pointed out as being extremely auspicious, rides up in the back. You like my new chair? It wasn't very. I managed to find a cheap chair that was comfortable, and an ottoman that I've got. I'm like totally chill right now. Anyway, it's so auspicious because of all of the points of perception that are legitimate perceptions of the self. Mosquito is just the self experiencing itself through the eyes of a mosquito. I know, it seems really strange. Why do that? But there it is. The human has the unique capacity to become aware of it. And that awareness of it is what eventually leads us back to the self directly, not perceiving itself through some point of perception. So the human is actually just a point of perception, not an I at all. There's no I there. The I is projected on it, but that's also part of the game, actually. It is a projection. It doesn't exist as a thing. It's projected on what is. The example I always want to use is the mirage in the desert. Right? The mirage, the desert's there. Right? It's real. It's hot, a lot of sand. It's dry. I'm thirsty. I'm sweating. I'm weak. And the air, the hot air rising off the sand, making all these ripples in the atmosphere, the heat, right? That's all there. The mirage isn't. That's a projection of the mind on what is actually here. The false sense of I is a projection of a self onto what actually is there, which is the self. And so you get a sense of I and concept of I, perceiving the self as a finite self, experienced completely, the emotions, the limits, all of it. And yet, the one experiencing it is not limited, is not stuck, is not a person. And in that process of the experiencing, it comes time for basically the perception to end. It ends as one life and then another life, and then it's time for it to end as all life. And then it begins, you hear the Dharma, you respond to the Dharma, you end up coming places like this because you recognize it as the Dharma. And that means the sense of I that you are living as is being called back home. So the prodigal son is the parable that Christ used. It's returning back to the Father, to the Mother, to the source. And you find that the source of the entire world is nothing other than yourself, and that there in fact is no world per se. There's only you, only the self. Nothing else actually exists. Therefore, it is not being born, it just is. What is just is. The sense of the I projected on it never was. It's just an image. There's nobody there. And the fact is, all of creation is just the image of the self, the image of God, if you like. So, is that to it for you, Lily? Wonderful questions. And for everybody, actually. It's really, yeah, excellent. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, cool noise. Perfect timing. What was the noise? I didn't hear a noise. It was fantastically helpful. Thank you again. Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome. Okay. Oh, Baba, I love you. Such a wonderful satsang. I love you too, Jennifer. Ms. Nay. Barb, I have a feeling that as long as you're in my life, I'm not going to be able to forget. Just a feeling I'm kind of getting. Yeah. So, good one. Yeah, and there's, see? And all of my female students are going to be chirping in. Oh, my chair looks super comfy. It actually is, and it wasn't all that expensive, and I had a gift certificate and everything, so the other chair was, I got it at Goodwill in the first place. It was like $15, and it was already, God knows how old it was, but it's been not quite as comfortable as it used to be, and looking a bit tired, so I thought, okay, it's time to retire that chair and get a new one. When I actually have to sit down and work, I can't use the ottoman because the desk's a little bit too far away. So anyway, there you are. Well, look at that. Just under 2 hours, and it's ready for me to go actually eat something, which I have not done yet today. Except my latte and my power drink. It's got all sorts of really good stuff in it. Strong flavor, though. Most people don't like it, but I do. So, on that note, everyone, reclaiming God and then reclaiming the goddess. That's a great title, by the way. That is a great title. Yeah. What can I say? Yeah, I might use that. Barb. Although people may think it's like talking about the goddesses, but it is goddesses. That energy that because they're all archetypes. Joseph Campbell put it beautifully. He said all the angels and devils, all the demons, and All the gods, all the goddesses are all you. That's gets projected out, and we create a world and the like. But the you, the very real, the very human you, the human female, all of the aspects, is the goddess. Simple as that. And all the males are the gods. And when we recognize our godhood, we recognize the goddess. And all of this bullshit, patriarchal stuff will come to an end at last. So, all right, my wonderful, lovely, amazing friends. I'll see you all next week. No, I will see you all in one of the many classes I have going on. So, better be there. Bye all.